All right, welcome. We're about to dive into an idea about language that might just change the way you think about words forever. It's this idea that language isn't just for describing the world, it's for creating it. And to get started, let's kick off with a pretty big question. Just think about that for a second. We're all taught that language is for reporting on what's already there. But what if that's only half the story? What if the words you use, the ones in your own head and the ones you type into a machine, are actually the instructions that build your reality from the ground up? And this quote right here, this is the core principle for everything we're about to unpack. Language as a creative act. Think of it like you're a coder, and your words are the code that turns pure potential into something real. So how does this actually work? Well, it all begins with one absolutely crucial element. Before a single word is ever spoken or typed, the whole process of creation gets started right here with your intention. You can think of it as the power source for everything that comes next. Without a clear intention, honestly, our words are just noise. The key words here are focused and non-diluted. See, intention is the anchor. It's what gives your words direction and power. If you have a scattered intention, you're going to get scattered results. And it doesn't matter if you're talking to yourself or you're talking to an AI. This slide just lays it out perfectly. In your own head, holding a clear goal like I will be productive makes you way more effective, right? Well, the exact same principle applies to AI. The machine isn't reading your feelings, but it is reading the structure of your intention. A clear, focused input gets you a clear, structured output. Simple as that. Okay, so you've got your focused intention. Now what? Well, you need to give it a shape, a blueprint. And this is where the structure of your language becomes so important. Raw intention is just potential, but a really well-defined structure, that turns it into a targeted force. Framing a prompt as a modern-day ritual, that's a really powerful way to look at it. There's a reason ancient rituals followed this kind of logic, because it works. It stabilizes the meaning and it filters out all the noise. So when you follow these steps, you're not just typing commands. You're performing a structured, intentional act designed for a very specific result. And this brings us to this really cool idea, symbolic precision. In old traditions, the exactness of a symbol or a word was everything. It wasn't just some technical detail, it was the source of its power. And the same thing is true for our language today. The specific words you choose have their own unique weight, their own resonance. Let's make this really concrete. Look at the difference here. Saying, I hope to feel better is, it's passive, it's vague, but saying, I am healing, that's an active, precise command to your own system. And it's the same with AI. Sad story is a loose request, but asking for a melancholic, reflective atmosphere gives the AI a very precise, symbolic structure to build from. Precision gives your words real creative force. All right, now let's get into the specific linguistic tools that make up this code of creation. These are the actual commands you can use to invoke a reality, both for yourself and when you're working with technology. Okay, you really need to pay close attention to this one. The phrase I am. It is not a simple description of how things are. It's a declaration. It's an invocation. When you use these two little words, you aren't reporting on who you are actively creating who you are in that moment. I mean, just think about this comparison. When you say I am unlucky, your own mind takes that as an instruction. It starts filtering your entire reality to find proof that it's true. In the exact same way, telling an AI you are an expert historian isn't a suggestion. It's an invocation. You are literally setting the rules for the reality of that interaction. The next tool is something we all know, but maybe we don't fully appreciate just how powerful it is, and that's repetition. Repetition is what turns a passing thought into a stable habit. It turns an idea into an identity. It's the engine that reinforces and hardens the patterns you want to create. And this principle holds true in both domains, internal and external. Repeating a mantra like, I am focused, literally strengthens the neural pathways in your brain for concentration. And in a prompt, if you repeat a key rule or a constraint a few times, you make sure the AI prioritizes it and sticks to it. In both cases, repetition stabilizes the result you're aiming for. So we've talked a lot about the power of words, but what about the power of what you don't say? This is a fascinating idea. Silence isn't just emptiness. In this way of thinking, it's the space of pure potential, where anything is still possible because you haven't locked anything down with a definition yet. This is such a subtle but incredibly important tactic. By choosing not to label yourself as bad at something, you leave the possibility open that you could become good at it. And it's the same with AI. If you over-specify a prompt down to the last tiny detail, you can actually choke its creative potential. Leaving strategic gaps, strategic silence, can lead to some really surprising and valuable results. So we have the engine of intention and the blueprint of structure. We have the code of invocation and precision. But there's one final element we need to basically ignite the entire system, and that's the force of your focus. Now, when we say intensity, don't think about aggression or yelling. It's about authentic, directed focus. It's the committed energy you put behind your words, the fire that forges your intention into actual form. This is what gives your language its sharpness, its real impact. And there's a huge difference here. Passively wishing for something is low intensity, but actively focusing your will on making it happen, that's high intensity. And this creates this really powerful feedback loop, especially with AI. When you operate with disciplined focus, the AI often mirrors that back to you, sharpening its own output in response. So, we've covered a lot of ground, right? Intention, structure, precision, invocation, intensity. Now, let's pull it all together into a single, unified practice that you can start applying right away. Here it is. This is your checklist for using language generatively. You start with a clear intention. Then you give it structure and precision. You use those powerful creative commands of invocation. You reinforce it all with repetition, and you balance it out with the strategic use of silence. And then, finally, you activate the whole process with focused intensity. This isn't just a list of tips. It's a complete system for shaping reality with words. So the final takeaway is this. Your words aren't commentary, they are construction. Your attention isn't just observation, it's participation. And that means the ultimate question isn't what language can do, but what are you going to do with it? Your language is the code. So, what world are you going to build?